Every single podcast is a business meeting with a specific purpose and a specific outcome for an MBA securities license. It finds that worth $50 million or up. But why should you listen to us? Who the hell are we? Why should you listen to us? It's because James is 43 out of 7. What the heck is that? Don't know what that is. Who knows? AI trying to get in or whatever. But James is 43 out of 47. And that means money for us. What are your first thoughts as we get into it, James?
Yeah, first thoughts. This week, we were supposed to have two title fights. We were supposed to have Yuri Prohaska versus Carlos Oberg, and we were also supposed to have Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira. Unfortunately, it seems Joshua Van got injured, and so they're actually postponing that fight until a later date. It's going to be on the Strickland versus Chimaev card. So we are still going to get that fight. We're just not going to see it tomorrow, which is a bit disappointing. Luckily, tomorrow's card is going to be stacked from the very bottom to the very top. So it should be a very exciting week for us.
Right. And it's going to be Miami. It's going to be very interesting. And James is going to go all the way up to the co-main event and main event. Then he's going to give me the winners. But I actually have some thoughts off topic, sort of, on the main event and the co-main event. So that's going to be actually pretty good this week and probably this week. We're going to wind things. But what's the first fight you're going to look at, James?
Yeah. Up first, we've got Charles Radke versus Francisco Prado. And Radke is very fun to watch. And at times, he actually has some great post fight interviews. Unfortunately, in the new Paramount era, if he does win this, we may not get to see the same type of post fight interview.
Right.
It seems they're a lot more
Oh,
focused on
100%.
censorship.
Yeah.
So we may not see any good moments out of that. But speaking about the actual fight itself, Radke has actually taken on some pretty good opponents, has a good strength of schedule, really is only lost to like highly skilled guys like Carlos Prates and Mike Mallet. So I was nervous for him at first because he does seem to fumble those ones. But when we look at Prado's most recent 5 fights in the UFC, he's 1-4 on a 4-fight losing streak. And he has losses to Jamie Mullarkey, Daniel Zellhuber. And that's just a bad look. So we're going to go ahead and Radke should be able to get this one done and win. We're going to take his money line at minus 175.
Minus 175. I love it. And in the little bonus podcast, we'll do the co-main event and main event. I'll have some thoughts on exactly what James talked about, the corporatization, the sanitation of the UFC. What's the next fight we're going to look at, James?
Yeah, up next, we're going to go take a look at Kevin Gastelum versus Vicente Luque. And both of these guys are kind of washed. Gastelum seems to be a lot more durable than Luque. And I think that's going to be the biggest factor in this fight. Luque used to be so good. Luque used to be the GOAT, but recently he's been kind of crumbling under pressure. Shots seem to be affecting him a lot more. I really don't see a way where Luque is going to be able to knock out or Kevin Gastelum just because if Joe Piper can't do it, even with some good shots, Vicente Luque is not going to do it. And Gastelum does actually have pretty good defensive grappling and wrestling. So I don't see Luque getting a submission there either. That being said, Kevin Gastelum should win this, but with the money line at minus 260, that's a little outside of our play zone. So the next best bet there would be for Gastelum to win by knockout at plus 175.
Knockout by 175. Gastelum. Love it. Yeah, this is in Miami, so I see a lot of the Hispanic names on the card. The next fight we're going to look at, James.
Yeah, up next, we're just going to keep going along. We've got Chris Padilla versus Maquel Medeiros, and both guys have very similar stats and strength of schedules. But I do think that Padilla's strength of schedule and stats are just a touch better than Medeiros, kind of across the board. He seems to have just an edge that he needs in every category. We're looking at Medeiros. He does have the better record at 11-1 compared to the 17-6 Padilla, but the strength of schedule of Medeiros is a split decisional win over Austin Hubbard, which isn't a great look. I mean, he did win still, but if Austin Hubbard's taking to split decision, that does speak to the level of your game.
Right.
So I do think Padilla should be able to get this one done. He has all the tools. We're going to take Chris Padilla money line at minus 162.
Chris Padilla money line minus 162. I have it at 155 on my book. So if you see me looking away, probably people can see it, the glare of my glasses. I am placing bets, $100 on these James's bets. What's the next fight we're going to look at, James?
Up next, we've got Mateus Gamrot versus Esteban Ribovics. And Gamrot at this point is an established veteran of the game, and he has some really great wrestling and like submission skills. But Ribovics actually has better stats across the board, except in accuracy and takedown volume, even though he has higher takedown accuracy and a more submission average per 15 minutes. That being said, he will also have a large advantage on the feet with volume and also in the power department, which isn't really measured in the stat sheet. But Gamrot just isn't going to be a threat to him on the feet. I mean, Gamrot in the fight against Oliveira, he was tagging Oliveira up, and Oliveira was able to eat them. And Oliveira's chin at this point isn't the greatest. And they seemed like they had no effect on him. I doubt they would have an effect on Ribovics. Ribovics should be very comfortable on the feet, and we could potentially see him getting a TKO as long as he can avoid the grappling exchanges. That being said, I was surprised Esteban Ribovics was an underdog here, so we're just going to go ahead and take his money line at plus 170. I was
I
expecting
love
the
it.
odds to
Oh
be a
my
lot closer.
man, James is money in these situations. When you see James break this down, get ready, smile at your bankroll. What's the next fight we're gonna look
Yeah,
at?
up next, this next fight might be a bit of an enigma. We've got Kevin Holland versus Randy Brown, and both guys' stats are nearly identical, and they have very similar like physiques and fighting styles. They're both real tall, long, lanky guys. And this one's really hard because Kevin Holland's strength of schedule is a lot better and more impressive. He's fought higher caliber guys, and he's faced off against some top contenders and even champion level opponents like Chimaev. But he does have a knack for selling parlays. He has a knack for losing fights he should win. So it makes
Mm,
us really nervous to bet on him. That seems to be one of his skills. And similar for Randy Brown, in
right.
his last fight, we did pick him to win, and he got knocked out pretty brutally in the second round.
Ugh,
His chin is not all there. So
blast.
tentatively, exactly. I think Kevin Holland should win this fight. He has all the tools he needs to win. It's more of the mental game for him if
Right,
he can actually push through because he does seem to give up. This one, Kevin Holland's currently minus 115 favorite. We're going to tentatively put that back in. But honestly, if Randy Brown flips to plus money tomorrow before the fight starts, we might switch up the bet, but it's
right.
pretty close to a pick 'em. Randy Brown's minus 105. We're going to stick with Kevin Holland. But if Randy Brown flips to like a plus 120, I think we might have to hammer that. And I'll text you if that's the case.
Totally. It's gonna be important to see where these people are from because they're in Miami. It's gonna be hot, humid. You're gonna be inside a building with a bunch of people. Doesn't matter how good the air conditioning is. You gotta be ready to go in some weird circumstances. What's the next fight we're gonna look at, James?
Up next, we've got the Bellator battle. We've got Patricio Pitbull versus Aaron Pico, both guys who were really tearing it up. Big names over in Bellator, came over to UFC and pretty much got smoked. Aaron Pico got brutally knocked out with that spinning elbow in his debut in the UFC against Lerone Murphy. And Patricio Pitbull lost his first fight pretty badly, but he did actually come back and beat Dan Ige to win his second fight in the UFC. Honestly, going off of just that, I was shocked to see the difference in odds here.
Right,
There's no reason Aaron Pico should be more than minus 300, which I believe
right,
he's currently at like minus 350 or 370. And I think Pitbull actually does have a win in the UFC against a good opponent.
right.
We're going to go ahead and go with the underdog here and Pitbull at plus 225.
Love it. Love it. You know, and he's in Mr. 305 area code, right? Mr. 305 Pitbull. You know he had to be on this card. What's the next fight we're gonna look at, James?
Yeah, up next, we've got Cub Swanson versus Nate Landwehr. And this one is going to be kind of a battle of unks. These guys both previously had a lot of hype around them. Cub Swanson's strength of schedule is definitely a bit better. He is the older fighter here. They're both a bit old. Cub Swanson is in his early 40s, and Nate Landwehr is 37. So, especially for the lighter divisions, that is something to take into account for. But I just think Landwehr's strength of schedule is not very pretty. It's honestly a little ugly. And Swanson has been looking very good still. So, we're going to go ahead and take Cub Swanson money line at minus 112.
Minus 112 money line. Swanson. Love it. Tougher schedule makes him tougher in this environment, which I still, the more I think about it, I think the more weird it's going to be in Miami, regardless of any other factors. What's the next fight we're going to look at, James?
Yeah. Up next, we've got Dominic Reyes versus Johnny Walker. And this one, I might be most excited for this fight on the whole card, just because
Nice.
this has some serious potential for some Looney Tunes off shenanigans. Both of these guys have incredibly glass chins at this point. Johnny Walker is a known like goofy character. I would if there was an option to bet on what the opening strike would be, for Johnny Walker it's going to be a flying knee. That being said, Johnny Walker has actually had some incredibly impressive performances as of recently. He had a huge upset against Zhang Minyang, which was very impressive. Dominic Reyes was on a large losing streak, then went on a three-fight winning and knockout streak, and then got slimed out by Carlos Ulberg in his last fight. So this one's real difficult. But I don't think Johnny Walker is as much of a threat or has the same level of power as Carlos Ulberg did. We're going to go ahead and stick with Dominic Reyes here. We can take his money line at minus 155. But honestly, when I was looking at just fight props, because this fight is going to end in KO, there's no two ways about it. Fortunately, that odd was minus 450.
Uh,
But if you want to take Reyes to win by knockout, we can still get that for minus 105.
minus 105, that sounds good to me. Dominic Reyes, minus 105 against Glass Chin Johnny Walker. Like to drink. That's probably why he's on the card. Next fight we're going to look at, James.
Yeah, up next, we've got Curtis Blades versus Josh Hockett. And Curtis Blades, again, is like an established veteran of the game, incredible strength of schedule, has some wins over some very good guys, including some very good grapplers. Like he has the knockout win over Jailton Almeida. And his opponent is kind of semi super hyped right now. It's kind of a pseudo hype. He had a very incredible performance in his last outing in the octagon, but it was just against a bug. It was against a can. Like he was out there stepping on bugs. Like it's not really anything for us to really
Get
gauge or
excited.
rate him with.
Yeah.
And yeah, the one thing he may have a edge in the mental game because he's been playing an absolute character this whole week for the media. He's out there getting on stage, reciting poetry like he's Chael Sonnen, like he's Macho Man Randy Savage. He just has one liner after one liner after one liner, just absolutely playing into the bit like a WWE character. So that could have potential to get into Curtis Blades' head. But and that aside, Josh Hockey does have a lot of skill. He has a lot of volume, power, takedowns, and gas. But Blades is going to have the like frame advantage and I believe the weight advantage here, as well as like experience and strength of schedule. I think it would be silly not to stick with Blades here. So we're going to keep his money line at minus 118.
Minus 118. Love it. So yeah, we're at the main event, man. So we're at the end of this card. What are and I'll tell the story in detail one time, but I did work out with a martial man, Randy Savage, Clark, Florida, Gold's Gym. But that's another story for another day. Final thoughts, James. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be exciting here in Miami. And Substack for Substack subscribers. We have a little bit of information on the co-main event and the main event, but Josh is gonna be making this mix. What are your final words?
Yeah, final words. I won't go into or discuss these next coming fights. It's going to be Osmot Mirzakonov versus Paulo Costa. One of these guys has previously tested positive for PEDs, and one of these guys looks like they're on PEDs but has never tested positive.
Right.
So that'll be something interesting to watch for.
If you're not cheating,
event,
you're not trying. Yes.
and then the main event, we've got Yuri Prohaska versus Carlos Ulberg. And Yuri's Prohaska is actually his child is supposed to be delivered on Sunday. So he has some extra motivation for him to win the belt and then post up with his newborn child with the belt in the hospital. That could be a huge moment if there were any story or plot lines going for the UFC. Other than that, I'm going to be busy tomorrow. I'm going to be at my best friend's wedding, but this card is so stacked. I'm going to have it pulled up on my phone, watching it throughout the entire ceremony. It's that good of a card.
Yes. Love it. I'm going to be watching. It's going to be very exciting for you guys on the East Coast. The co-main event, the event's going to be late at night. It's going to be worth it, right? And you're going to have fun, drunk, listen to the picks we have, the outcomes we have, and the insight we have into what's going on. So if your purpose is to make money, enjoy the fights, and to be independently wealthy, what you do is you use fundamental analysis and you use each individual pick, all the picks we give on the podcast, especially James's pick, and your money will be saved. Thank us for the SPC podcast network.
I'm for whatever. Let's stay together like Al Green and others. She told me she wouldn't let me.